Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Seth, one of the co-hosts of Engaged Podcast, to give you a few announcements before we get into today's episode. First of all, if you are new to the podcast, I want to say welcome. Hit that subscribe button wherever you're hearing my voice right now. So whether that's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and the like, hit subscribe if you like today's episode. That way you get more content sent to your phone every Thursday, so you don't have to look for us. It's super easy and super simple, and who doesn't like super easy and super simple? Also, if you haven't come out yet, I won't say anything more about it because this is like the 50th week I've done it. You guys got to check out our outside services before we go back inside. They're such a pleasure. They're so much fun. I guess you could call them outside tailgate services is kind of what they are like, because a lot of people, they have their lawn chairs. There's a playground for the kids to play on during the service. It's so much fun. If you're not a churchgoer, this is such an easy way to get back into going to church again. It's such a fun thing. So that's every Sunday at 11 a.m. at Faith Presbyterian Church on North Hermitage Road. It's well worth your time. Our guest today is a fantastic individual. We actually recorded an episode with her a couple weeks ago, and somehow, some way, it got lost in the ether. And she was so generous to come back and share her story again and her amazing idea. Her name is Kara Wasser, and she is the founder and the creator of Ohana Link. And it's such a cool idea. My sister-in-law just gave birth to her second child, and we actually recorded this particular episode while she was in labor, and the whole time she was talking, all I was thinking about was, wow, this would be such a cool thing to have offered her, but it's you'll find out what it is, and it's such a good idea. So give it up for our friend Kara Wasser.
Back to Engaged Podcast. We are so excited for our new series. This is our Leader to Leader podcast, where we feature leaders in the community and inspiring leaders. This is also a special segment of that because we have Kara Wasser from Ohana Link Technologies, and this is a special edition because we are featuring strong women of the Shenango area and Mercer County, and we're so excited that you're here, Kara.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
How is it going?
It's going great.
Good.
Yeah.
Seth, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. Any day where I get to record podcasts or work next to you is a good day.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
You were a little bit grumpy this morning, but you turned a corner. Was it the coffee that did it?
I'm just not a morning person at all.
Okay.
As I said, I used to be, and then when I became a night owl, then I was no longer a morning person. I don't know. There was something about waking up in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. Being, are you a night owl or
I'm trying to decide because I don't think I'm really either. I really love my bed. So getting out of it is hard, but I function better in the morning than I do at night. So.
I do find that I on days that I wake up earlier, I get way more stuff done than I do at nighttime. One of my favorite quotes is, daybreak is a never-ending glory, but getting out of bed is a never-ending nuisance. Mm-hmm. Morning is such a glorious thing, but it's the getting out of bed part that's just, it's bad.
I went to bed at 2 a.m. last night. I will force myself to stay up.
Wow.
I fight myself to stay up. 2 a.m.
I know that because you text me until 2 a.m.
Oh my gosh, that was the middle of the night for me. I was in bed at 9 o'clock. Not sleeping, but I was in bed at 9 o'clock.
So you're tired and you're like, I'm out.
We read and watch TV and just unwind at night. We go. It's kind of like we go so quickly all day that's the time that I, chill.
In the morning.
No,
at night. At 9? That's not
at 9 o'clock at night.
okay.
Yeah.
My neighbors probably look outside of their house and see me like randomly standing in the middle of my driveway thinking like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that happens. Like I'll be there with my dog, you know, and we're just like looking for things and I'm just ready to have him like attack something.
Oh my.
It just doesn't make any sense at all. Or like,
Wow.
what is the pastor doing up at this late? And then secondly, like, what was he hunting? Like, what is happening right now?
If only they knew that was the most normal part about you.
Yes, that's true.
I can't give you a compliment and just leave it as at the
No, I
compliment.
agree with that. So that's good, Seth.
Right.
That's what makes our relationship special.
Yeah.
So, Kara, you're back for round 2.
Yes.
This is a secret nobody knows about. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Except for Seth. You know.
Yeah, I do.
Can you give us just a real quick 10-second of why she's back for round 2?
Because we recorded last time, and we recorded a lot of podcasts that day, and my computer could not handle it. And then later on that night, I was doing some schoolwork, and before I knew it, my computer shut off. It just said, "I've had enough." And then here, the memory on my computer had gotten just so full that the computer would not turn on again. So I had to get it fixed. I had to get it all put on. Long story short, our episode got somehow erased in that process. So I was so bummed.
I don't think anything happens by accident, though. I think we're here for a reason. So
Yeah.
whatever that is, I
Nicely
don't know.
put. Yeah, well, this is going to be even better. And you know
It
what?
is.
Only 3 of us are going to know that because no one heard the first one. We'll be like, this was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Kara, you started something called Ohana Link Technologies. Why don't you go ahead and share with us? Tell us what it's about, and then also tell us what inspired you to start it.
Okay. So Ohana means family. So that's where Ohana Link comes from. That's one of the first questions I always get is, where did you come up with the name? So Ohana Link, we are the link to your family in healthcare scenarios. So I was inspired by the fact that I missed the birth of my niece and realized that communication between families in healthcare situations is often chaotic and unorganized, and I experienced it several times after I missed the birth of my niece. So I realized that there was a need for a solution in the market that would connect families and patients. And a lot of the healthcare technology out there is connecting patients with their physicians and with their healthcare systems, but the families are being left out of the loop. And so we sought out to close that loop.
So what was the problem that led you to that?
So my sister went into labor, and she thought that my mom had told me she went into labor. And my mom thought that my sister had told me, when in fact nobody told me. So I was in Erie, where my family is from, that day, and had actually left Erie to come back to Hermitage, and ended up missing the delivery. So that was upsetting for a lot of us in the family. You know, my sister was upset, and that's the last thing that she needed to be worried about, was who was in the loop and who was getting updates. And so that night I started searching for a mobile waiting room. I was like, how come there's not something that's connecting families that are across the country from each other? And so I started searching for that, couldn't find anything. And it was something that just kept bothering me. I felt like a nudge, to keep looking into it, because I came from real estate finance. So I wasn't even in the tech world. I was just interested in solving this problem.
Yeah.
And so a couple months after having the idea, I was sitting at work and just kind of thinking about it again. And a kid I work with was like, what's going on? What's wrong with you? And I was like, I just have this idea and I really feel like I need to do something with it. And he was like, well, what is it? And I said, well, it's an app, but I can't tell you what it is or I'll have to kill you, because I really believed that it was that good of an idea. And it was. But so he said, well, I have this friend that wants to create an app for somebody. I just had dinner with her last night. She does web-based stuff, but she's looking to do a mobile app. And I was like, great, give me your information. And so from there, I met with her a couple days later, and that's how it all began. It was really just, focusing on the nudges that I was feeling and moving forward with them one step after the next.
That's cool.
So what were some of the obstacles that you faced starting this link, the mobile app?
Yeah, so many obstacles. I knew nothing about technology. I knew nothing about the difference between a web-based app or a mobile app. I knew nothing about the first or next step to take. So it was really just trying to figure out step by step what to do. And very shortly after I started down the path of developing the app on the web-based platform, I was introduced to the E-Center at Linden Point here in Hermitage through a contest. It was a big idea contest. And so I pitched the idea there. They loved it. And at that point, I started building my mentorship network. And so that really became the first or second most important step in my journey, was really building my network and finding people that did know what they were doing, because I didn't. So I just really became a student and just learned everything I could over the next couple of years.
Isn't it funny how, your story and so many of the stories we hear are you're getting your goal sort of accomplished through the help of others, whether they're actively like, I like you, I like what you're doing, I want to help you.
Yeah.
Or accidentally, like the story you said with that guy that's just like, hey, I had dinner.
Yeah.
Right? And then you were courageous enough to pursue that.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned networking. Mm-hmm. Do you have any suggestions for people who are listening who say, I want to network better? Mm-hmm. Is there a rule of thumb you use, or is there something you can suggest?
There's not really a rule of thumb other than go to everything that you can. If somebody invites you to something, go. Even if it seems like it's going to be inconvenient, even if you can't foresee what might come from it or what the outcome might be. I have an example of that. Like, I was invited to mentor students at Westminster through their entrepreneurship program. And, I'm still at that point working a full-time job, knee deep in building my business. But they were interested in, how did you take your idea and turn it into a business, and helping other students try to figure that out as well. And so I knew that it would be time consuming, but I also knew that something good was going to come from it. And I had people actually saying, like, you got to be careful with what you do with your extra time. And I feel like things that you're invited to and things that you might not necessarily want to go do are those things that you absolutely should go do.
So is that how you felt on your drive in here to Faith Presbyterian Church? The thing that I do not want to do today,
No.
I have to go see Anthony and Seth again.
No, I'm actually so grateful that this is my life and my job. I wake up every day and I'm like, I could have to go report to a boss, So, I mean, there's things that we would probably all rather be doing, maybe even than sitting here right now. But I really believe that every interaction is just taking you to the next step of whatever's to come.
Yeah.
So.
I can't remember who said it, but it was the very last question that I asked to one of our guests about if he can go back. Mm-hmm. I think it was Jeff Lynne that mentioned that every interaction counts. Mm-hmm. That's the advice I give. Was that him?
I don't know if it was Jeff Lynne. No. It was State Representative Aaron Bernstein.
Okay, right. It was, yeah.
Yeah, it was him.
And that is true.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
the reason why I ask about the networking thing is because it's so crazy how life works with one person knows another person. And that's been the story with the podcast.
Yeah.
We always say, hey, do you suggest someone that where we would benefit, but more so they benefit. They get to share their story. They'd make an awesome guest. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, everyone's like, you got to sit down and talk with blah, 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 right?
Right.
Yeah. So just last night, I'm part of this Jim Rohn thing, and he sent out a top books every young entrepreneur needs to read or whatever. And so I was like, let me click on it. And then you're like, yeah, read it, heard of it, not going to read it, whatever. Yeah. And there was one on networking. So I was like, oh, okay, that looks interesting. So I clicked on the book. And then, you have, once you read, you're like, now, do you really need to buy the book? Because sometimes once you get to the concept, it's like, why'd I buy the book?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I have this exactly correct, but I'm just going to throw it out there. But you'll get the idea.
Okay.
He called it 5 plus 10 plus 50. All right? So he says you want to find your 5 most important contacts. Make sure you contact them weekly. Then you're outside of them, your 10 next most important, and you want to contact them the next week. And by the end of the month, you want to have totals 50. It's something loosely based on that. That is what we like to call the Anthony Cloditis version. But you get the idea, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like that is solid.
Yeah.
But then I thought, like, who has time? Like that's its own full-time job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like mom, dad, working. How do you, that is a full-time job. Even the 5 is a lot. You know, now you add 10 more than at the end of the month, 50. Now I know you could accomplish that. I know you can,
Right.
but man, to consistently do that, that's rough.
It is, and that actually sounds like a sales job or something. That sounds time consuming and
That's
daunting.
right, exactly. So I don't know if in the book he has like, here's your best ways to do that. Here's these different templates to where you can do this, and he probably does. But man, I guess I'm just sharing that to say some people like to have a system, but it's networking is critical.
I
It's
think so.
important.
And I think that having a system like that might make you feel like you're forcing relationships, where I think all of the relationships I've made along the way have really been organic or, like you're saying, a result of an introduction. So there really would have been no fast forward button on the path that I took to build my network.
That's a good insight. Again, you know, we don't know what the book says, but that's right, because I guess if you take approach like that, it could become mechanical.
Yeah.
Whereas, in other words, you're not a person to me anymore. You're a number.
Right.
Right? It's like I called you, I emailed you, boop, we're done. Go to the next person. That's a good observation. So maybe I'll buy the book.
Maybe.
Maybe.
It might not be anything what you thought it was going to be.
I know. I'll have to circle back and apologize to the author. I'm like, I screwed this whole thing up.
Well, luckily you didn't say who the author was.
That's right.
Or the name of the book.
That's true.
So
Maybe I just made the whole thing up.
Maybe you did.
it's possible.
I have heard that before, though. So I
Yeah,
don't
something
know.
like that.
Something like that.
Yeah,
but in the sales world where I came from, it was
So
like,
the front of the book didn't look like it was brand new. So maybe it's been around for a while. So
Yeah, there was something this is years ago, but it was about networking. It was like, it was the idea of like a ship wake, in that you talk to like a friend and then they say something that they learned from someone, right? And then you find out who that is, and then you contact them and you talk to the person who influenced your friend, and then you find out who influenced them, and then you go and talk to that person, and then you just keep going through the wake until you never know who you're going to meet. And we've done that obviously with the podcast, you know, with the amount of guests that we've had, are people we would have never had the chance to talk to, people like Aaron Bernstein, but because someone who we met said, you got to have them on your show, I'll get a good word in for you so that, you know, they know. And it's the coolest thing, because not only do you get to meet those people, but you get to also dive into their world, and you get just to learn from them, like our guest that we had earlier today over at Haitian Sensation, which was just such a cool thing to do. So yeah. So how much of a Mount Everest was it to create an app? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like super easy, do it in my sleep, to 10 being it was the most hardest, back-breaking, mentally exhausting thing I've ever done.
no, I mean, I would say maybe a 5. I've enjoyed the journey. It's been difficult, of course, at times, but really just trusting the process and taking one step forward. I think that, you know, had you told me day one that I would have to, you know, raise capital and manage a team and be working with a team in the Ukraine and all of these things that are way too heavy to carry on the first day, I would have probably ran scared. But I think that as you just take that one step further, you just...
Before you know it.
Yeah, before you know it, you're here and you're like, would I do that again? I don't know. I mean, I probably would, because it really didn't, you know, it wasn't painful. Everything just felt like it kept falling into place. And, you know, I know they didn't hear the last podcast because it got deleted. But what I said last time was that everybody along my path has just been brought in when I needed them to. And I've never asked God for success or for, you know, personal gain. It's always been about, you know, just bring the right people into my life and let me do good. I just want to do good work, and the right people just keep showing up. I mean, I have story after story about the right people just showing up when I needed them to. So
that's pretty cool. One of my friends, he does like video game designing, that kind of thing. So every time we talk, everything is an illustration that has to do with games, and I don't play games, so like I don't get half of it. But he was talking about the fact that he's like, I'm trying to think exactly how he put it, but it was to the degree of like in video games, when you're trying to accomplish something, you're on a quest, you find what you need along the way, right? They don't give it to you at the very beginning because you're like, I don't know what half of this is for. So to simplify, they just give it to you along the way. He said that's exactly how God works. God doesn't give you all your resources at the very beginning because we wouldn't know what to do with it.
Right.
But what he does is that he says, take the first step, and once you get to A, I'll give you the next part for B. And, and that's something, again, we've heard through almost all the guests that we've had, Christians or not Christians, is that when you hear their story, it's the fact that God started them on a path. They didn't know where it was going to lead. They just felt something nudging them.
Yes.
And then as they went along the way, God just kept providing a person here, a venue here, an event here. And it's just, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's funny because when things happen now along the way, sometimes we're like, wow, wasn't that crazy that she showed up when we needed her? And we're like, why are we still surprised? You know, because we know for the last 4 years that everything has just worked out the way that it's needed to. So, we're,
so cool.
We're just trusting the process. And
I think Martin Luther King Jr. said something about, the faith required to get to the top of the stairs. You don't need to see the top.
Right.
You just need to see every step in front of you. And I remember learning this concept in my own life. And life inch by inch is a cinch, but life yard by yard is hard. And I think God understands that. God being a father and a good father understands that you lead people. And so you lead them step by step. And so if life yard by yard is hard, then that would like taking a little child and putting them at the bottom of the stairs and say, I need you to leap up to the top.
Yeah.
And that's where you're like, I'm not even going to try. Why even try? But God guides us along the way, in these little baby steps to get us to where we need to go. The thing that I always think of is you just became aware of it.
yeah.
Right? What I always think of is, was that always there our whole lives, but we're not aware of it? It's just we've tuned in to see it.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I think about,
I don't know. I mean, I think it takes faith to tune into that. And I don't know that I've ever told anybody this, but you're going to hear it here first. I was miserable in my corporate job. I loved what I did, but it was just a grind, and it was just, I knew that there was something more for me. And I just remember one night asking God to just use me for something good. I want to do your work. I want to do good work for you. And I remember that night so vividly. I was actually reading a book and I can't remember the name of it, but it was Christian based. And I just remember like connecting with God that day and really just asking him to use me. And I feel like since that day, I was almost more aware of the things that were being brought to me. And I think that that's something that some people fail to unlock within themselves, the listening and paying attention to what's in front of you. And so many people let their gifts go. And it's so tragic to me. I can't tell you how many times people have come to me with ideas and have not pursued them because they're looking at that last step. And they're thinking that that's what, how quickly can I create that? And if you just go step by step, that's the answer. And if you're willing to listen and grab onto those things that come in front of you, even if they're scary, there's a lot of scary stuff I had to do along the way. Yeah. Standing in front of a room of professionals that have been, investing in companies for a very long time, and I'm not from that world. I mean, those things are scary, but I just did them anyways. And I just go into those things asking God to give me the right words. And it hasn't failed me yet. So
it's pretty cool.
I went into a meeting this morning and just prayed before it and said, just give me the right words. And
sometimes that's the simplest thing. Just pray simple. I remember I was involved in something recently and I was like so drained. And I just said, you know what? I said, God, fight for me. Like, just fight for me.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm tired. I said, go and fight. Go ahead of me and fight for
hand
me.
it over.
But there's something cool there because there's a biblical principle of being a conduit. Conduit, the blessing doesn't just go in you, it goes through you. Mm-hmm. And so that's a sign of, I think, a mark of a mature person. I would say a mature believer is that you have these gifts and these passions, but you find a way that they don't end in you. Mm-hmm. They go out through you to bless others.
Yeah.
And that's what Ohana Link is trying to do.
Yes.
I mean, you felt it yourself. It's frustrating. And I've been in situations, you have been in situations, I know every listener has, where someone somewhere along the line that you love is sick.
Yeah.
And you feel all that frustration, right? Mm-hmm. This is just one nice way where you go, we're all right here on the same page. Yeah. And that just relieves a lot of things.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you're, I'm trying to think, you were in real estate, you said, before this?
I was in real estate lending. Yeah, I did mortgage lending.
So how do you, because I always use the example of Moses and the fact that when he went to the wilderness and was a shepherd for 40 some years, he thought that was just his normal day and job. Mm-hmm. But then when he took the Israelites out of Egypt, we as the readers connect the dots and say, oh, God was training him to lead sheep so that he could lead the Israelites out of Egypt. So that wasn't just a dead-end job. That was preparation. How do you think your past job was preparation for you to do what you do now?
Well, I think in several ways. One is preparation in that, I was an independent real estate lender. So I had to really go out and find my business and figure it out. I didn't really have a boss every day telling me what to go do. So independent work is a lesson that I took from that. But also I think it was the people that I was that were in my life during that time period that brought me here as well. So like if I didn't have that job as a lender, I would have never been sitting in that office in Mercer that day talking to Chris, who said, hey, I have this friend. Do you know what I mean? So I really feel like that path just led me here, and I don't know.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool. If someone wanted to do the same thing that you're doing, whether it would be the same kind of idea as you, or they had their own idea, and they came to you and they said, I want to take this and make it a reality. What advice would you give them?
I would say take the first step and just map it out. So for me, in my case, it was I want to create a mobile waiting room. And so Stacy, that I spoke to that day, said, well, what do you want it to do? I need you to map it out and see what do you want it to do for you? So it actually took me about 5 months to map it out, between momming and working a full-time job and so on. It was just like, what would I want it to do? And talking to my market. And so really just exploring your idea, seeing if there's something else out there competing against you, and just doing the research. I think research is always the first step.
Very cool. So, very cool. In your opinion, we're living in a very crazy time. 2020 has been a little bit nuts, a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
World's a little bit crazy right now.
Yes.
In your opinion, what does the world need the most right now?
Compassion.
Compassion.
Yeah. I mean, if people can just be okay with other people having their own opinion, and not trying to force your opinion on anybody else. I mean, actually, I think about this when I see political signs in people's yards. I think, seeing that sign is not going to change my opinion. I just don't think that you should be forcing your beliefs or your opinions on anybody, and just being an understanding person and realizing that it doesn't make them a bad person because they have a different opinion than you, and just being okay with that.
I don't know why I never thought about the sign as it's not really, like, what is that sign for?
I think it's I don't know, like
We've never had one. My parents have never had one. I'm trying to think of.
Yeah, I don't.
You see them, but what's the?
Here's my thing with the sign. Like I often wonder, like, has the sign ever swayed someone? Like you're driving down the road, you pick up your kid from school, and you're like, okay, blah blah, and you're like, oh look, there's the vote for whatever. Like, has that ever said this, like, actually effectively been like, I know I'm voting for now?
Yeah.
The only thing I could
Because that,
no, like,
you know, that will blow my mind.
to see like the stats of people who were like, I was driving and I saw like, oh, I really like their sign. I'm gonna go ahead and just vote for that person.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Right, I know. Like,
Does it ever have that effect? Now, full disclosure, I have a Trump and Biden sign right next to each other in my front lawn. I confuse all my neighbors.
I like it.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a neighbor that has signs all over his yard. I won't get into one way or the other, but it's like literally 6 signs, 3 in the front yard and 3 on the side, and I'm like, but why? Like, I just feel like it's like this is who I'm voting for.
Yeah.
Almost like you're yelling it, you know,
Yeah.
and like you just want to shout it from the rooftops, and that's great, but I don't know what you're trying to get out of that.
People's identity is so wrapped up into politics. You know, it's incredible. We see that, you know, even in the church, not just here in all churches, people get so wrapped up into the political realm.
Yes.
You know, and they associate that with their faith and don't even understand, like, no.
Yes.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, it is just like a religion. You have the president or whoever the politician is the God figure or the Jesus figure. The rallies are the church meeting gatherings, and then the other people who have the signs in their yard is just like people who have crosses in their houses. It's a representation of what you believe, what you stand for.
Those are the Bible tracts you find at the water stations and things like that.
Yeah, and then people who wear the hats or the shirts or whatever. That's the community. It's the same exact thing as just any other religion. It's just, and then if you even question it or try to poke at it to understand it, those people get very defensive because it's like now you're messing with who they are.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
It is weird. It is like they make it a personal thing.
Yeah.
And try to define you by who you vote for, or you know, I don't get involved in that.
I'm not in that political world thing, so maybe that's why I don't get it. But yeah.
So let's think about this for a second. What now when you're not, what do you do for you? Like what do you do for fun? What do you do to unplug? What are your hobbies?
I ride my Peloton. I love my Peloton. I work out. I really just enjoy reading and any calmness that, you know, I do a lot of thinking throughout the day, a lot of talking to people. So just calm and quiet, and not that riding a Peloton is calm and quiet, but it really is a stress reliever for me. And so that, and I watch a lot of trash TV.
Days of Our Lives.
No, I watch Survivor shows.
Okay. So real quick before I have a question about that, when you're on the Peloton, do you listen to like 80s rock? Like, is there like a theme?
Well, I take
station
classes.
or something? Oh.
I take classes, and they're themed classes. So I usually take like the pop classes or the Britney Spears class. I am a huge Britney fan. I mean, I grew up in the late 80s.
Yeah, Genie in the Bottle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's Christina Aguilera, but it's okay.
I wasn't going to say that.
I knew who it was, okay? I'm a 90s kid, too.
Okay. So, I'm a huge Britney fan. Something else I love doing is just car concerts. My daughter cheers down in Pittsburgh, so we do have a lot of car concerts, and just, I don't know.
I'll just pretend like I know what that is, but I want to jump back to the Survivor shows. I think this was on the History Channel originally, and you might know exactly what I mean. And then it was on Netflix, and they drop people like in the middle of like Siberia or Antarctica or like the middle of the ocean or something like that, and they're just like living.
Yes.
And it blew my mind. And I'm going to tell you. So, what is the name of it?
Alone.
Or
Naked and Afraid. There's 2.
Silence of the Lambs. What'd you say?
Alone.
Alone. Okay. So, listen. One of the things. Did you ever watch this?
Alone? No, but I've seen the advertisements for it.
Okay, watch this. One of the things you'll notice when you watch this is as the show progresses, these people have to make, like, it's real. Like, you're like, there's no, like, there's nothing. I would die in 8 minutes.
Me too.
Okay?
I wouldn't last 3 seconds.
They're like,
I think that's why I watch.
they're talking like, when a Wolverine comes down, I'll just, like, it's nothing. Like, like it's nothing.
I'll eat it.
Right?
Yeah.
But, and you can tell me if you've noticed this, their huts or tents or whatever they make, it is mind-boggling.
I know.
Do you agree with this?
Yes.
It is crazy.
They
the
actually
things that
build
these things
log
that they make.
cabins.
Yes. Like, they're
Within 10 days, they have these log cabins set up,
houses.
and you're
Yes.
like,
They don't even call attention to it. Like, it's not even, like, they're so used to being this whatever
Yeah.
outdoorsy
survivalist.
that's their normal. But I'm telling you right now, it's insane.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're like, I'm going to work on my shelter today. Today I'm going to build a chimney. And they know exactly how the air flows
It's
to get
unreal.
their smoke out of their hut. It's crazy to me.
One guy, I think, killed a moose, right? It was like,
Yeah.
and he had to, like, cut it in all the pieces, bring
and it was like
home.
miles away
What in the
from his
world?
shelter. So he has to cut it up into
Yeah.
pieces.
It's insane.
That was a great show.
Alone is what it's called.
Yeah, it's called Lost. It's a bunch of people get on an
Alone.
island and they like are confused why they're there. Remember that show?
I never did watch that show.
Oh
but
man, I tell you what, I got into that in the beginning, and like most people, as the series went on, it just got worse and worse and worse. Till you're like,
lot of
why are
shows
you
do
doing
that.
that to
Yeah.
me? Just end it while it's great.
Yeah.
I was just telling my wife that from like in the early 2000s, my parents, because my parents, they love camping. Both of them are Army brats. They are like so into the outdoors thing, we as a family, we made the show Survivor like the second, like the closest thing to a church like thing. Like it was a religious event at our house. Like that way we had pizza delivered to the house, and we would make a whole event out of it. And this might sound shocking to some people, I had no idea that show is still on. Like I thought it went off the air like in 2009.
Yeah. I didn't know it was
2010. Oh no, they're still going strong. And the same guy does it. And they've had like 3 or 4 reunion seasons where they bring all the old people back. But yeah, that was the only like survivalist show that I ever gotten like into.
This
Jeff
one's-
Lynne actually tried out for that. Did you know that?
I did not
Did he
know
say
that.
Yes.
that? No.
You'll have
Okay.
to talk to him about that
He
next time.
he didn't tell us that.
But this one we're talking about, like when you, because you know Survivor, right?
Yeah.
When you watch this thing here, Lost in the Woods,
Yeah.
they're not in the same.
Alone.
Like yours is like T-ball
yeah.
version.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
And this is like
They drop them off with 10 items and the clothes on their back. And they like set traps and catch rabbits and skin them. And oh gosh.
it's
Now,
like
did they-
you're going. It should have been called "You're Probably Gonna Die."
Yeah.
Like I would have named the show "You're Gonna Die
oh,
Soon."
they all lose like half their body weight or
Crazy.
more.
Now, this might be a really weird question, but it probably will be. Did they go into like what these people did before they got dropped off? Like, did they kind
Yeah.
of go into their backstory?
They do, but the majority of them on this show are like survivalists in
Okay.
their real lives. Like they live in huts and so on in normal life.
Oh, okay.
They enjoy that.
Well, the reason why I ask is because, like, at least for me, I find it so fascinating that, like, you kind of saw this on Survivor, and when as a kid, I picked up on this, is that you'd have a guy who would be like, let's say he had like a minimum wage job at McDonald's, and he's barely making ends meet, but you put him in like Survivor where he's in that environment, and he was like the king of the world, like he was the alpha male.
Yeah.
He was the and I always find it so fascinating, which is why I asked about this particular show. Is I think that would be so cool to see if people who are just like normals walking around, in the normal world, you put them in that kind of society, and if there was an apocalypse, that would be the person that we would all go to.
Yeah.
Well, didn't they write a book about that with those little kids who got shipwrecked? Like, what was that?
The Swiss Family Robinson.
No, not Little House on the Prairie. The one, it's real famous. It's the boys, and it's like super violent. We've read this when we were little.
Oh, you're talking about Lord of the Flies.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Isn't that what happens with them? They're like normal kids that got shipwrecked, and
They
then they become like
murderous.
all savage.
Yeah,
Have you never? You don't know about this? Yeah, it's real.
that's
Not
the,
my kind of reading.
that book.
It's craziness.
I refer to that book a lot at home because, like I said, I have two boys under the age of 3, and we have a little girl too. And when I just see them playing, I'm like, now I get why the author of that. Like, I'm sure that author at some point just went into like a nursery and just watched 2 boys fight over a toy, and he was like, I wonder if I just wrote on a bigger scale.
Right.
Like, it's absolutely believable.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
All right. Another question I have to ask is, so what personally for you, what inspires you? What do you see, whether it be on the news or in TV shows where people are surviving and killing bears? What do you see that really gets you going, that lights a fire within you?
I'm inspired by other people being successful.
Okay.
I like seeing other people that have maybe come from hard times and really made a difference in the world or made a difference in their own lives. I think that's really inspiring. Knowing that, you don't have to be a victim of your circumstances and you can really become anything that you want to be. So I just like watching other people be successful.
That's cool. Cool. Have you ever listened to Tony Robbins' little talk about how Rocky got made and the whole Sylvester Stallone? All right, you put it in your phone or whatever. It's or I'll send it to you. It is. Okay. He showed it to me years ago, and I'm not kidding you. I probably listen to it at least once a month. It is the most. If that gets you going,
send that to me.
I will.
Actually, I have one that I listen to just as frequently, probably, and it's called Jump.
Okay.
And it's by God, what is his name?
Is it a story?
No, it's Jump from the guy that does Family Feud. What's his name?
Oh,
Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
Steve Harvey has a talk called Jump, and he did it. It's a video that happened right after one of his episodes, and he just starts talking to the audience, and it's called Jump, and it's amazing. I actually send it to people all the time because, people are scared to take that next step and scared to take the first step even. And I gotta tell you, before I quit my job, I watched that probably 10 times a day, every day, and it just like amps you up. It talks about, if you stay at your job, you're going to have bills anyways. If you quit your job, you're going to have bills anyways. So it's like you really have to just figure out and be willing to jump and get bumps and bruises along the way, but your wings will eventually open up if you have faith, and that's what it's about. So
awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Will, if you're listening out there, you can Google right now or put it in your phone to listen to Jump by Steve Harvey.
It's awesome.
Also, if you're out there, all you have to do is Google Tony Robbins tells a story of Sylvester Stallone and Rocky, and you're going to then write in the comment section after, man, am I glad I listened to Tony Robbins telling the story of Rocky Balboa.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
It's incredible. Okay, a couple more questions real quick here. So what is Kara doing in like 10 years from now or 15 years from now?
If I've sold my business by then, obviously that's the goal, is to sell at some point. Everyone wants to get bought out by a bigger fish, right? So an exit. But like my whole company, Ohana Link Technologies, is not just about Ohana Link. And we talk about this all the time as a team, that our goal is to take the next group of Karas and the next group of entrepreneurs that are in our area and help them to do what we've done. So we're all about creating opportunity for the next generation here in the Shenango Valley specifically.
Okay.
There's a lot going on in Youngstown, Pittsburgh, Erie, but we believe that what we have here is really smart people. It's a great place to live, and I want to keep my kids here. So we want to just, give people the tools that I didn't have or that I had to find along the way. And we talked about no shortcuts, and we talked about not being given tools. But I think there were some things as far as like right now we've launched a product and so on, and there's things that we're realizing that, oh man, if we would have had sales training then,
Yeah.
you know, or things like that. So really just helping people build businesses in the area is something that not only I'm passionate about, but my entire team is passionate about.
It's excellent.
So.
That's excellent. Okay, so let's looking forward. Now, let's pretend for a second that you're able to go back in a jet plane and travel back, and you see yourself, young Kara, maybe 14 or 18 years old, something like that, and you were to walk up to you. What advice would you give you?
Well, I have a 15-year-old right now that I try to give advice to because she actually struggles with, the pressure of feeling like I really need to have my future figured out. And I think that what I do tell her is, focus on the things that you're passionate about and do those things because, she's a competitive cheerleader. She loves that. And she doesn't so much like school, but, I think that there's things that she can do to take the things that she's passionate about and turn them into a job or helping others in some way. So I just say, follow your passions. There's no straight line, those kinds of things. So
Very cool.
yeah, I think we try to figure it all out, and so that's what I would tell 15-year-old Kara is you're not going to figure it out. So stop trying to figure it out and stop trying to think that you have to have it figured out by the time you go to college. Because I think that's something that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do.
Yeah. Yeah, not only ourselves, but the world around us. That's the narrative that you're given.
That's
so it's
right.
like you feel that you have to have it all figured out. So, Kara, I know I speak for Seth here. Thank you so much for coming back.
Sure. Thanks
You've been
for having me.
a great guest. Check out Ohana Link Technologies. This is something that they can just search for online. How would people find this?
Yeah, so you can go to ohanalink.tech, and that's our website. And then you can find our apps in the App Store. Right now, Ohana Link Baby is available for purchase, which creates an experience around your pregnancy where you can, connect with your family and friends and really have a private journey and share it with your family and friends. So Ohana Link Baby is in the App Stores now for Google Play and iOS.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, this is Anthony Clauditis, pastor at Faith Presbyterian Church, signing off another Engaged podcast. This is our Leader to Leader series, and we are focusing on strong women in the Shenango Valley. And we're signing off, and we're so excited to connect with you next week.